welcome you to the regular meeting of the Board of Mayor and Aldermen for June 21st, 2016. I'll ask everyone to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please be seated. Item 1.2 on our agenda is the approval of the minutes from the special meeting of the board held on May 10th and the regular meeting held on May 17th. Is there a motion that these be approved?
So approved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion now? Hearing none, if you would favor the approval of the minutes of these two meetings, will you please say aye? Aye. Opposed, no. So ordered. We have an item, it's not an item to be voted on, but an item of recognition tonight that I'm going to ask Sam Andavazio with the gas department to come forward to present some scholarships from the gas department for some very worthy students from five of our county high schools.
Thank you, Mayor. It's a pleasure to do this. Unfortunately, it's one of those days for these kids. There's one that was working tonight and was trying to get here, and she was really wanting to be here, and then there's one that's caught in the storm right now. So she's on her way, but I don't think we're going to be able to get to recognize her. But I do have the two here, but I still like to mention tonight, and congratulations to you all, and we are just excited that you be a part of the Springfield Gas System program. Wesley Hyde from Joe Burns High School, MTSU, and he will be in applied physics. Come on up, Wesley. And from South Haven Christian School, we have Kendall Molinek. Kendall, congratulations. Kendall will be attending Pensacola Christian College, and he'll be a finance and business. The one from Springfield High School will be Miss Brittany Lincoln. She's attending Tennessee Technological University. She is nursing, and she is not able to be here tonight because of the having to work. Miss Emily Mason-Cutt from Greenbrier. She is on a mission trip. We wish her well, and she's not able to attend tonight. She's attending the University of Tennessee Martin, and she is majoring in veterinary medicine. And the young lady that is caught in the storm right now, she is her name is Tara Brooks. She is from East Robertson High School, and she will be attending Austin Peay State University and also in veterinary medicine. Congratulations to you all, and we wish you all the best.
Thank you very much, Sam, for that presentation. We wish all five of these graduates the very best as they move on to college and represent this county and your families, the school system here very well. So wishing you the best. We now have public hearings scheduled on 4 issues. The first one is in regard to Ordinance 16-07. This would amend the current fiscal year's annual budget for the city of Springfield by amending the general fund and this again is the 2015-2016 annual budget. Is there anyone in the audience who wishes with regard to this item? Hearing none, we move to the second part of the public hearing. This is in regard to Ordinance 16-08, which would adopt the annual budget and tax rate for the fiscal year beginning July 1st of this year through June 30th of 2017. Does anyone wish to make a statement with regard to this item? Hearing none, we move to ordinance 16-09, which is the third on this list. This ordinance would set a new schedule of rates and charges for the Springfield water system. Does anyone wish to speak on this matter? And finally, ordinance 16-10 rescinds ordinance 15-07 in its entirety and sets a new schedule of rates and charges for the Springfield sewer system. Would anyone like to comment on this? Hearing none, I declare the public hearings as having been concluded, and we move now to the legislative portion of the agenda. Item 2.1 is ordinance 16-06, third and final reading regarding our new building sign design and installation within the city of Springfield. Who would like to make a motion on that? So moved. Is there a second?
Second.
All right. Now discussion before we vote. Any discussion on that and third and final reading? Hearing none, we'll call the question.
Snyder? Aye. Cornell?
Aye.
Gregg?
Aye.
Sneed?
No.
Trotter?
Aye.
Head?
Yes.
Hubbard?
Aye.
Pass 6-1.
2.2 is in regard to ordinance 16-07. This is the second reading. This would amend the current fiscal year budget for the city of Springfield's general fund. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second? Second. All right. Any discussion? Please call the roll.
Hubbard?
Aye.
Sneed?
Aye.
Cornell?
Aye.
Trotter?
Aye.
Snyder? Aye. Head?
Yes.
Gregg?
Aye.
Pass 7-0.
All right, we move to the next page, item 2.3. This is covering ordinance 16-08, which is a second reading. This ordinance would adopt our annual budget and tax rate for the fiscal year beginning July 1st and ending June 30th of 2017. Is there a motion?
So moved.
And a second.
Second.
Now, any discussion? Paul?
Thank you, Mayor. I want to make a comment about something coming up, and then there was something that was overlooked by me that should have been addressed in the budget, but it should have been brought over to another fund. The first issue is later. We're going to look at consideration of a COPS grant. We were notified that they were taking applications here after the budget was presented. At the present time, the budget has a surplus of $134,964. That's more money in revenue than expenditures right now. The COPS grant would be something we would get after the fiscal year started. So we don't necessarily have to amend the budget before we pass it on third reading day after tomorrow. But I did think it was, if we did get the grant, we did have a plan about how these positions could be funded. And you notice that we are going to be paying 25%. The COPS grant is 75% with a 25% city match for 3 years. And for 2 officers beginning October 1st, the total amount of salaries and benefits, 2 fully equipped vehicles and equipment and training, $121,431. You have a surplus of $134,964. Salaries and benefits will be $28,059, and you've got COPS equipment of $18,688 for a remaining surplus of $88,217. Our recommendation would be also to fund the 2 fully equipped vehicles on the notes and increase that to $792,384. And that once again would be after this budget that we're considering is actually passed. If we don't get the grants, then the surplus will stay at $134,964. Now, One thing that we had in our capital outlay budget, capital improvement budget for public works, and very few things come in general fund through there. That's why I missed it. But we have some signal improvements that are going to have to be done at the intersection of Memorial and Central Avenue because of the new speedway and how people are going to access that intersection. So the speedway people, Alan, are contributing some of this, and we're contributing some. Okay.
We're just going a little further. We're going to do all 4 corners instead of 2.
Okay. Now, that's $60,000, and that's something we probably should address before we have third reading on the budget. You can do it in cash, or you can once again also put that on a note. So that's money in, money out. It's a wash. And we may be talking also, there's been some discussion, some interest in looking at retiree insurance in this budget that's being considered right now. Retiree insurance, the retirees pay 85% of the cost of insurance, and the city pays 15%. We've been asked to look at 50% city and 50% retiree. We've looked at age 55 and 20 years of service. I think the official TCRS numbers for retirement are 60 and 20 years of service to qualify. Also, although we can't put an exact number on it, obviously when people retire, they're generally at the high end of the pay scale, and then they're generally replaced with somebody much further down the pay scale, as a general rule. Not always, but as a general rule. So there's a trade-off there. It's not an exact trade-off, but some of the money will be made up in salary savings and benefit savings. So those are there's really 2 things to be considered in this budget, whether we want to do something with retirement and whether we really need to put something in for the intersection. Other than that, those are the only things I wanted to point out to everyone.
Okay. Mayor? Yes, sir. Make a motion, we add the stoplight signal for Speedway to the budget.
All right. Give me a second. You want to vote, you're voting to add it to the agenda or just to make it? Should we do that, or can we just do it under?
It's part of the budget. It's part of your consideration. Right. So that's going to change the amount of the budget. I would also respectfully request to determine whether you want to do it in cash or you want to do it as part of a note.
Which way you want to do it?
Make a motion, we add the Speedway stoplight signal into the budget with cash.
With cash. Is there a second to Mr. Sneed's motion?
I will second.
All right, we're doing this as a budget amendment, is that correct? Or we?
Yes, I guess you can take a vote on that.
Okay. All right. Any discussion on that matter? Certainly that's got a matter that needs taken care of. That I haven't seen the figures in the last, in some time as to the traffic flow at that intersection, but the last time I remember, Margot, do you remember what those are now? Memorial, right along there, it used to be around 35,000 vehicles a day.
Yeah, it's close to that. I haven't scrolled anything.
It's a lot. And you think about that, 24 hours in a day, and not too many people running up and down there at 1 o'clock in the morning to 5 o'clock in the morning, so there's a whole lot, there's more than 1,000 vehicles every hour. So they're going that through the daytime, so ridiculous. All right.
60,000 over and above what Speedway's contributing?
All right. Is there any further discussion on this item?
We're voting on the amendment.
We're voting on the amendment here.
Okay.
If you favor the amendment, please vote aye. If you oppose, vote no.
Trotter.
Aye.
Hubbard.
Aye.
Head.
Yes.
Snyder. Sneed. Gregg.
Aye.
Cornell.
Aye.
Pass 7-0.
All right. Now, the matter of considering that item for people who would be eligible for retirement, say at age 60, and for us to pay 50% of their health insurance until they're 65. That's what you were talking about on that matter?
Yeah, well, yes, if you wanted to do 50-50, you had 2 choices, 55 for 20 years, or with 20 years service, or 60 years of age with 20 years of service.
No question. All right. I got you first, Mr. Trotter.
On the, would that be retroactive or just from July 1 forward on retirement?
Well, it would be going forward, but there's just like how many people that are in that category now that are retired
Right
prior
now-
to 60, yeah.
Right now, we have 9 that are retired and,
And are under 60, and are not eligible for Medicare.
Anyway, there are 7, well, if you're going 60, there are only 3 of the 9 now that retired at age 60. So the others retired, well, 2 of them retired at age 54. So if you did 55, 7 of those would have been able to retire then. But if you keep it at 60, which you probably should, that is the full retirement age for Tennessee Consolidated. Only 3 right now, but you would grandfather all of them that are already in pay. You would grandfather those, but I would recommend that from July 1st when the budget passes going forward, that anyone that's age 60 for 20 years of service, get 50%.
Do we have any dollar figures for this?
Well, we don't, because we don't know who's retiring.
So we're writing, you're asking us to write a blank check?
How many's eligible?
Well, let's come up with a reasonable
We can-
ballpark.
I can go and look at everybody that's eligible at age 60 to retire. See how many there are, see what kind of insurance they have, either employee plus one or single, and then I can come up with an estimate that way.
Yeah.
But
I think that would be the better way to do that, keeping in mind that if we did consider that, each one of those who is, that might retire in the future is going to be replaced, and they would be replaced, let's just say that the figure was $5,000 a year that we would be picking up. Would we be picking up that much on some of them, or is it that?
oh, it could easily be that.
Okay.
And generally, when they retire, they're at the top of the pay.
All right.
And then you're bringing in new ones at the lower.
So it could be that this doesn't cost us anything, because the people that would be moving into their spot would be paid less. And you can see the figures are firm as to what we would be paying on that insurance policy. And our exposure would only be for 5 years. And that's
Right.
heard a lot about that over the years, that we have employees who are staying on simply because they can't afford the high cost of insurance, meaning that they go from a policy that pays 85% of their insurance to one that pays 15% until they're eligible for Medicare. So,
Are they required to go on Medicare once they reach that age?
yes, they would be. We wouldn't take it beyond that point, no. This is something that our exposure would only be, if you use the 60 point, would only be for 5 years.
So if you encourage people to retire sooner, since we're paying more insurance, then aren't they going to work? There are going to be more people retiring sooner, right? If they're being encouraged to have that incentive to have more pay.
Well, the point is that at this time, for this, because we don't know how many, we can get the exact number for you. Let's just have that. We can amend this budget at, on the 3rd reading. But this is something that for several, it's something that keeps us from being quite as good an employer as we could be. This is a pretty, when somebody wants to retire and they're staying just for insurance, kind of an indication that we need to make it a little more affordable for them. And it likely may cost us nothing. But we need the firm figure on how many employees, and keeping in mind that a number, what's the number that's in utilities, the total employees that are in the utility funds? Roughly, out of the 250 employees.
Off my head. But I was going to say that right now, with the 9 that we have paying 15%, the city pays 15, for projected for next year, the city would pay $15,349 for all 9 of them. If we went to 50% for those same 9, and just forget the age or anything, it would be 51,000. So you're increasing at roughly 35,000 on the insurance end. Like the mayor said, you've got some savings other places.
So, assume the cost of insurance stays the same too.
No, that's projecting a 5% increase next year.
All right, can we get those firm numbers by the meeting on Thursday?
All day tomorrow.
All right, so you've got the idea, you'll have the figures by Thursday on that, which is not going to be a significant item, but it is, you still, even once you get it, you're not going to know for sure if these people are going to retire. But you don't want to open up the door too high. That's the reason you're not proposing to go from, to paying 85% of it, but you will increase what you're paying from 15% to 50% to try to make that a little bit more affordable for these people.
Comment?
Yeah, we're not going to take a vote on that.
No, we don't take a vote, but over the years, you know, a lot of people did say, I wish I could retire for insurance. And also, I think it's time for us to kick in that incentive, as you said. That's just something that a lot of people came on board to work, hope it never happened. So I echo that.
All right, other items on this, other comments on the budget that's before you? Hearing none. I'll call for a vote.
Okay. Cornell?
Aye.
Snyder? Aye. Hubbard?
Aye.
Trotter?
Aye.
Sneed?
No.
Gregg?
Aye.
Head?
Yes.
That's 6-1.
All right, we move now to item 2.4, which is ordinance 1609 on second reading. This would set a new schedule of rates and charges for the water system. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion on this item? Please call the roll.
Snyder? Aye. Cornell?
Aye.
Gregg?
Aye.
Sneed?
No.
Trotter?
Aye.
Head?
Yes.
Hubbard?
Aye.
That's 6-1.
2.5, ordinance 16-10, second reading, sets new rates for the sewer system. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second? Second. Any discussion on this? Please call the roll.
Hubbard?
Aye.
Sneed?
No.
Cornell?
Aye.
Trotter?
Aye.
Snyder? Aye. Head?
Yes.
Gregg?
Aye.
That's 6-1.
All right, ordinance 16-11 is a first reading. This is an ordinance establishing fees for the rental of the football field at Martin Luther King Jr. Park as set forth in Exhibit A, which is attached. And as required, this proposed ordinance will be read by our city clerk, and then we'll get a motion in a second.
Ordinance 1611, an ordinance establishing fees for the rental of the football field at Martin Luther King Jr. Park is set forth in Exhibit A attached. Whereas Article 4, Section 13 of the Charter of the City of Springfield requires that the fixing of fees and charges be accomplished through legislative action, which must be exercised by ordinance. And whereas requests have been made for the rental of the football field at Martin Luther King Jr. Park for interscholastic and youth football games involving teams that are not part of the Parks and Recreation Department Junior Pro football program. And whereas the Board of Mayor and Aldermen desires to establish fees for the rental of the football field for both day games and night games, now therefore be it ordained by the Board of Mayor and Aldermen of Springfield, Tennessee as follows. Section 1, the fees for the rental of the football field at Martin Luther King Jr. Park are hereby established as set forth in Exhibit A attached. Section 2, all ordinances, resolutions, and policies in conflict herewithin are hereby rescinded to the extent of the conflict only.
All right, that item was discussed at our last meeting rather thoroughly. Is there a motion that it be considered?
So moved.
Is there a second? Second. Any discussion? Paul?
Thank you, Mayor. I did want to inform the board that this is pretty much how we set up the original $700 fee. This is going to be a reduction in the fee, because when we sent this up years ago when the field was first constructed, TVA had a different rate schedule. And the cost of lighting the field for 4 hours was about $145, and that's where the $110 is coming off the top. So the lighting costs now are $35 for 4 hours. So we have two options here. If you rent the field at night, it's going to be $590 for a reduction of $110. And if you don't need the lights, if you're just playing during the day, it's less the light fee of $35, which makes it $555. And that's just the city, providing all the manpower and taking care of everything related to the rental. So you get the city support, the striping, everything you need for the football game provided by the city for that cost.
All right, repeat the new fee would be, instead of it being the $750 figure to include lighting, it would be with the lights being used, it would be
$590.
And without the lights being used?
$555.
Okay. You have the figures. Is there a motion this be considered?
I have a question.
Did you get it? Okay.
Brought my attention that I see you had 4 employees for the striping of the field. If the league decided to stripe the field themselves, would that be minus that 210?
I think we're better off just renting the full facility and doing what we're going to do. The board can really just decide what fees you want. We're trying to get the real cost. But the board, you can charge what you want. That's just what's there. I just feel better. We can treat everybody the same if the city provides the field and does all the work and has a set price for everybody. Because then we're negotiating things with everybody and every condition, and I don't think we want to do that. But if you want to set a lower rate, just lower fee, you could do that, but we wouldn't be covering all our costs.
I believe that with it being our property and it could be used at times, you don't know how many other people are maybe going to use it during the period as well. Is it striped for every game?
That's it.
All right.
One other thing, let's be comfortable, keep it within our recreation department. And there's something else I need to kick out while we're talking about this, Mr. Mayor. Concession stands are still under our control, and the scheduling have to be done according to our schedule. So let's get that out front.
Well, that is understood.
Yes, sir, let that be understood.
All right, you have a motion before you to set the rental fees for the use of the field. Is there any further discussion? This is just to approve that new schedule. The old schedule called for a higher dollar figure. Now we have a reduction from TVA, so we're a little more flexible with that. So, all right, anything further before we vote? Call the roll.
Head,
Yes.
Cornell, Charter,
No.
Snyder, Gregg, Hubbard, Sneed, pass 6-1.
6-1. All right, now we have a first reading on an ordinance 16-12 that would amend our condition of service manual by amending the section pertaining to the maintenance of fire hydrants. Do I have a motion?
So moved. I second. I take a second.
All right. Discussion? Paul?
Thank you, Mayor. This ordinance is actually part of the Project Ally discussion that's coming up towards the end of administration. And as you know, there's, it looks like, hopefully, we'll have a 1 million square foot distribution center in Coopertown with an announcement coming in a few weeks. And that's what we'll be discussing toward the end of the meeting. And there will be about 10 fire hydrants around that facility. And because how the facility has to be operated, and Roger thought it might be a good idea to have these fire hydrants, to allow them to be privately owned, and he can explain that, the reason for that. But we are basically changing 3 policies in the condition of service manual to do that. Roger, would you like?
Mr. LeMasters.
There are 3 policies in our conditions of service manual that address ownership of fire hydrants, and basically all 3 of them indicate that fire hydrants, if they're attached to our system, are to be owned by the city of Springfield. There may be some instances, and this Project Ally would certainly fit into that, where it may be advantageous to the customer to be the owner of fire hydrants. And I don't have a problem with that, provided they can show us that they have an operation and maintenance procedure and protocol where they would ensure that the fire hydrants are operational. They would have to provide, as I've indicated in the amendment to this, that there would be certain information that they would need to submit, whether it is Project Ally or really anybody, that they would be able to maintain these hydrants in the same manner that we would. Also, that they would be required to provide us a yearly report on their operation and maintenance activities. And this Project Ally, we're going to be, and we've been talking about this quite a bit, we're going to hire an engineering company to help design a new water tank to supplement. The water tank will be a water source, primary water source for this company to have fire flows that are necessary. We can only provide 65 pounds of pressure. The most we can provide is 65 pounds. And as water use goes on during the day, that'll be lower. So they're going to have an on-site pumping, actually two pumping systems, a electric pumping system and a backup diesel-powered system that will provide the 85 pounds of pressure and the 3,750 gallons a minute that they need, that the fire insurance folks say they need for this building. Well, with them having, we're going to have sprinklers, plus we're going to have fire hydrants around the outside. And this, a 1 million square foot building, that's about 20-some acres. And that's a long way to go around this thing. And we're trying to figure out, well, if there are system, if there are fire hydrants, are we going to have easements for our fire hydrants to be located on this property, and how would we get to it? And how would we, the big thing was, if we go out and try to operate this hydrant, let's say we open a hydrant, what happens? The fire pump would recognize a drop in pressure, and the fire pump would kick on and try to pump 3,750 gallons a minute. Well, then we shut the hydrant off after we test it, and we go to open it, and the pump shuts off. Well, then we go to another hydrant, open that up to test it, comes right back on. So what they have recommended, requested is that we allow them to own those hydrants. They have a company comes in once a year to test each of these pumps, and then somehow they provide us a protocol with how they ensure that each of these hydrants would operate satisfactorily. This is the impetus, but it could occur elsewhere in our system, but they're going to have to show us that they can operate these hydrants as efficiently as we can. We can repair hydrants, and we can repair hydrants all the time. The second thing is they have to provide an annual report on the procedures they use.
I provided Mr. Lowe with a report regarding limited automatic aid that our department could participate in. The report is in your packet. Mr. Lowe took the report and met with the area fire chiefs. They approved the report. Mr. Lowe then met with Ms. Stacy Moore, chairwoman of the Robeson County Fire Committee. On June 10th of 2015, I was asked to speak before the Robeson County Fire Committee, basically going over what was submitted and to answer any questions the committee may have. The Fire Committee approved the limited automatic aid and directed Ms. Moore and Mr. Lowe to meet with the city manager and I. We met last Tuesday. Mr. Nutting has approved this proposal and has directed me to present this to you this evening. It's all in your packet of what that report was when I produced that report. If you do approve this, Robeson County will contribute or donate around $20,000 to the city of Springfield. In addition, and finally, if this is approved, it will take time to implement, as the 911 address and department will have to enter the streets, roads, and highways that are within the 5-mile distance from each fire station. Then send those to our department so we can enter in our street directories to ensure immediate response without delay. I'm be ready to answer any questions that you may have.
Now let's get a motion to consider this.
So moved.
Second.
All right. All right, the floor is open for questions of Chief Hammond.
I support this.
Chief, I want to point out something. Everybody knows my interest in the fire service, and that goes from being a volunteer fireman a long time before I was a mayor. But what they're trying to do here, we are able to do fire service because we have a large budget for our fire department. We have a Class 4
Class 3.
Class 3, excuse me, rating, which is actually better than Nashville and Davidson County has. And this does have a direct, we might spend money to do it right, but when we do, the homeowner and the businessman sees it with the insurance that his insurance carrier provides for him because of the low rate, the lower the number, the better the rating is.
That's correct.
So what we're trying to do here is to reach out and help some areas of the county and use an example, and you correct me if I'm wrong, but let's just say on the east side of Springfield, if you were going out 49 east toward Chrysler School, if there were to be a wreck between the road leading to Travis Price Park there and Chrysler School, who is first in line to respond to that? Is it not Cross Plains there or not?
I believe that's correct.
Okay. So you can see the example of why we're being asked to do this. We're not being asked to go out a great distance, but the compromise that you all are proposing is that in a radius of 5 miles from each of our 2 stations, the headquarters station and the station 2.
Yes, sir.
We would be willing to answer structure fire calls and calls for rescue, typically automobile and truck accidents.
Yes, sir, that's correct.
No emergency medical service, just these types of calls.
That's correct.
An example, I do know that in Bowling Green, Warren County, Kentucky, you know the size of that area. For years, the Bowling Green Fire Department has answered the calls for wrecks on I-65 throughout Warren County because their staff, they can get there quickly. So using the example that I just gave you of Highway 49, you can see why it would be so much of an advantage to the person who's had an accident to have immediate rescue that can be provided in probably 6 or 7 minutes along that stretch from one of the city stations, as opposed to waiting for volunteers who've got to go to the Cross Plains station, get the truck, and bring it out. And that is in essence what you're trying to do. As they draw those lines throughout the county, they can't be perfect, and they, you know, if you're living near the fire station, good for you. But if you're 9 miles out, it's not too good.
No, sir.
But this would, and the fact that we are the county seat and the hub of the county, that gives us the opportunity to help our neighbors rather than everybody having to come from a great distance on the outside. For example, if it were on 49 West, the odds are that truck's going to come from Pleasant View.
Yes, sir.
So that's, I mean, if it were at Carrs Creek. So you can see where this would be something that we could provide, and keeping in mind that these people are going to come to us when we have more than we can handle. But they've always been able to help us. But this is how we, having a staff department, can make a difference for our county residents who live very close to the city.
Yes, sir. We're not taking over anybody's jurisdiction. We are just simply assisting those agencies that fall within the 5-mile radius, 5 road miles from each fire station. They are still, once they get on the scene, they are in charge, and we will follow their direction. But until they get on the scene, we will establish a command, and then when they arrive on the scene, it's their jurisdiction, it's their territory. So all we are is just assisting those agencies.
All right, now what other questions do we have? Jeff?
I fully understand this as far as a wreck, but when they get a call to go out on a fire, they don't know what kind of road they're going to be going down. And a $400,000 truck that may not even go down this road because it may be gravel, it may not be wide enough. We know what all of the roads in the city are. These trucks are made for city use of doing those things, and $20,000 is a drop in the bucket for what it should cost to do this. It ought to be more of $150,000 to $200,000, and they should be staffing a separate type truck and with some more men to go along with this.
you're thinking more money than this 20,000.
More money than this 20,000.
Concept you don't basically have a problem with, but you do have.
I'm all for saving lives, but we're talking about, you know, used wrecks on the beginning, but most of this is going to be fire service. We're going to have to call other men in and pay overtime.
Not normal. But I don't think you anticipate.
No, sir. ISO, Insurance Services Office of Tennessee, when we are dealing with automatic aid, if we are providing automatic aid, they want 50% of the engine companies available for the city. We have 3 engine companies. So we will, once we are summoned to respond in a territory, we can't go to another outside, you know, if another call comes in outside our city limits, I am unable to respond. I must protect the city.
Mr. Steve.
Mayor, I've had discussions with the director of the 911 Center, and I can't get anything done about the training of the employees to decipher whether there's actually a need for a fire truck to actually roll for a situation that doesn't need a fire truck. And I was told that the directive for them to do that comes from the fire chief. And so that's where that would have to start. I haven't talked to you about getting with her on it, but that's something that's been in place. I think maybe I have talked to you about it in the past, because every year you bring reports. Your calls are going up. They're not going down. Every year calls are going up for districts. More need every year. That's just for the city. And now here we are contemplating using an ever strained resource to take on more further out for $20,000. Now, you articulated the need quite well, but I think it's off base considering who's paying for the bulk of the service that will be going out there, in light of all of these car wrecks that fire engines are going to when they don't need to, and which could get resolved if the questions were asked of the dispatchers whether it's even needed. Assess the situation better before they start calling people. So I think I know where I'm leading on this. That's all I've got, Mike.
All right. Chief, would this be on every call? I mean, like I said, even if it was an accident, every call, would you take in consideration each call? Each call we take in consideration?
Depends on when the call comes in. We're going to be responding to automobile accidents with injuries. And when we arrive, if there's a need for the heavy hydraulics, jaws of life, etc., heavy hydraulics for extrication, you know, we will do that. If we get on the scene and they are not trapped or pinned, we will stay till the ambulance arrives and assist in packaging the patient. If the engine company from that jurisdiction arrives and there's no need for extrication, if they need our assistance, we'll ask if you need our assistance. If not, they will package the patient and put the patient in the ambulance.
And all those counties only paying $20,000. Lives are more important than money. So if you only getting $20,000, but you're saving somebody's life, it's worth it, more or less.
Right. The percentage of calls that we answer in a given year that's wreck-related, automobile accidents, I don't recall that figure roughly.
We're at a little over 6%.
6%.
It's about 120 wrecks with 120 automobile accidents. And less than, probably, I would guess, 10% of those require heavy hydraulics. It's where we have to crib the car and the person is either pinned or trapped in the vehicle, where we have to use heavy hydraulics.
And because the bulk of our calls are EMS calls.
Over 71% of the call volume is emergency medical services in our city.
And the small fire departments don't have that capability of extracting people and stuff like that.
Oh, yes, sir, they do.
They do.
There's several engine companies out in the county. I don't know if they all have it, but a lot of them do have heavy hydraulics or the jaws of life and cutters to extricate people that are pinned or trapped in vehicles.
You're basically your backup. You're going to be a backup for them.
Right. We'll be a first response agency where it's like a known fact that we are able to respond in this area faster than a volunteer agency can arrive on the scene, because the volunteer fire agency, wherever he or she is, must travel to a fire station, get in the fire engine, and travel to the scene. We are immediate response.
I guess some aldermen got a call like I did. I received a call that the city was going to get the short end of the stick on this, and that's what I was asking the question.
Sure.
And Mr. Mayor, this would be the same as the Robertson County Sheriff's Department is doing for the city police department right now. They're helping out in the city of Springfield when they see things that
Yes.
need attention.
There is an extremely good relationship between the Sheriff's Office and Springfield Police, and Chief Thompson has alluded to that more than once, and we get good cooperation. If we need additional officers on a scene for something, they're there, and oftentimes they may come upon an accident or a situation, or they may, yes, they write tickets in the city too, just like state troopers do. A lot of people getting to know that highway patrolman that rides the motorcycle quite often, I think, from what I hear.
We'll be attending the scene until the agency, the fire department that's responsible for that area, arrives on the scene. So it's clear, you've got people living right on the edge of Springfield that have to wait for somebody from Pleasant View or Cross Plains to get there. This just makes sure that fire's under control, and then we're relieved. We go as soon as the incident commander says they have it under control.
That is correct.
Fire department.
I was next before Mr. Steve. I have to go along with, okay, I can see on 431, 41, and 49, but I see all these narrow roads. Okay, that's kind of a concern.
Let me ask something.
I'm trying to get trying to get these big trucks of yours on these narrow roads.
I hear concerns that, and I do think it's valid, that the amount of money is not sufficient. I agree with that. But do I hear some willingness to do this if that were taken care of?
There's not a motion on the floor on this.
No, we're discussing
before now.
There was a motion second.
Yeah, we got a motion.
It is a motion.
Yeah,
well, I know who elected me and who I represent and who I'm beholden to. And just may fall where it is, but it's not outside city limits.
Well, that's certainly a decision that you could make. All right. But I think we've heard. Bruce, did you have any thoughts on that? No. Okay. Any other comments?
Yes, sir,
Mr. Mayor. He's got some.
Yes. To me, this doesn't seem much different than asking Chief Thompson to go out and patrol 5 miles out, and it's the city taxpayers that's paying for this. Again, if we were talking about a substantial amount of money that would compensate the city and the taxpayers that's doing this, I'm all for saving lives, but I'm not all for sending a $400,000 truck out when he don't even know if he can go down this road.
Well, that's why we need to discuss all that.
One final thing. When we passed the firebox with the key on the outside of buildings, the issue in doing that was because the fire department brought in this huge key ring, if you can remember, as a visual display of all these rings. I don't know if they actually went to anything or not, but I couldn't verify it. There was a whole big ring of keys.
Are you suggesting they were lying about this?
And I asked the question, why couldn't there be a better system of organizing the keys, that when you go out to a place that has one, that you take the key with you? It was because, and if I can recollect, the answer was it would take too much time to go back and get it. Now, if we're out at the county 5 miles out, isn't the answer for a call back at the city the same? We're too far out, or it's going to take too much time?
Referencing back to the Knox box issue, every engine company and truck company our department has the Knox box key. whereby if we need to enter a business to save $1,000 storefront by busting the glass in it, we use the Knox box. That Knox box, we enter the last 4 digits of a number, and we have access to the key. All engine companies, I've got 4 companies, 4 trucks, and 1 aerial device that has access to the key to unlock any particular Knox box that we have in our city. So if it's alluded to that I'm not going to be there, I'll be out in the county, and I get a call to the city, I've got 4 more fire engines that will be able to open a Knox box.
Chief, that's not the point. The point was when we passed that, it was because we didn't have time. It was a time issue why we needed to do this.
Sir?
Isn't it a time issue if your engines are out in the county and there's a need for it in the city? You would have the same response for that as you did when you were arguing for the Knox boxes?
I'm not following exactly why you're comparing a Knox box to what this issue is right here. Excuse me, sir, if I may. The keys that you're alluding to, we had a key ring with, it had to be 100 keys. It goes in 1 fire engine. We get a call, and let's just give it, let's say it's Springfield, let's say it's Belks, and they didn't have a Knox box. We get alerted to respond to Belks. We arrive. The fire captain is trying to fumble to try to find the key to open this door. That's why the best thing to do, and the best thing that has ever been done, was the invention of the Knox box.
You're missing the point.
Yes, sir, I guess I am.
We're talking about time of the resources. You argued for the boxes because of time and the resources. If you did have an organized key box at the fire station to pick the right key for the address you're going to go to, rather than have all the businesses pay for these several $100s worth of boxes. That was your argument then. It had to deal with time.
Yes.
Time. We're not dealing with the knock box. I'm just using that as an example as the argument you made was time. If you're out in the county and there's a call for someone, a need in the city, there's the same argument you made for the lock boxes, it had to deal with timing and getting those trucks to where it's needed.
Mr.
I'm sorry, I'm totally confused with exactly what you're comparing.
I want a map.
With the Knox box, nobody's required to have that, are they?
Any new construction.
New construction, but of people who, had businesses for a long time, we didn't require that, did we?
No, sir, but we encourage.
Does the fire department get any compensation for Knox boxes?
No, sir.
That's something that we allow okay, now in the future, we tell the people while the merits are, but that's not what this is all about. We need to assess this situation based on several things. Is that enough? Is it worth, the city, we have to protect the city.
Yes, that's correct.
That's absolutely true. The amount of $20,000 is not enough, I don't think. Many people, most people probably say.
That's between y'all.
But there is some merit, there is a case that could be made for this, I think, if you get the money right. But it doesn't need to be thrashed about any more than this. We need to vote what we think our, how many of you, I'm going to get to your hand, how many of you think that the amount, if you were in, the money issue, how many of you feel like that is a major factor in this, if you're going to do it? Okay.
I want to talk about the roads.
Go ahead.
And I want the question answered about the roads. But then I also want to have a question about the map. Okay, if we're not busy at the fire hall and you get a call that's on Black Road, I don't understand the different circles going on. It looks like if you were on Black Road, you may or may not provide
if you're within the circle, what Station 2, there's a Station 2 radius and there's a Station 1 radius. So if you're within either radius, you're eligible.
So Black Road would be in that.
I'm trying to find Black Road, I'm sorry.
Black Road is a very small road.
Blackwood, is it abbreviation?
No, it's not Blackwood.
There's a Black Road.
Is it at the top of the circle?
It's by Blue Ellen.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
So we would cover mutual aid right there.
Yes, if on Black Road, what you're saying, do you have this?
Yes.
Okay. It is kind of confusing because we have two firehouses.
Right.
And the one that extends, if you look at Matthews,
Right.
Black Road,
Yes.
that is the area that would be served by Fire Station 1 at Fire Headquarters on Central. However, and keep this in mind,
Okay.
this is just a radius. What I am requiring is 5 road miles from each firehouse. And it's going to be close, the way this is drawn. It gives you just an example of what the territory will look like of protected areas from both of our fire stations.
Okay, so if Station 1 is out on a call, Station 2 is not going to that one.
Station 1 called in the city, or what?
Station 1 is out on a city call.
Okay.
Station 2 would not respond to this.
Station 2 would respond.
Would, okay.
Because if it's a Station 1 call for service in the city, I've got an engine company that's available. They would take that call.
Okay.
Because I have one available.
Okay.
What you're seeing here is if they are in-house, both of them in the firehouses, this is the area.
All right.
But they're not in the firehouse.
But
Y'all are working.
Yes, we stay very busy.
Yes,
Mr.
I got
Steve,
one more
wrap it up
question. I
here.
got a question for our council. Ms. Bartee, you've got a customer. They're in the city limits. Their house burned down. They've inquired as to why their house burned down, and they were next door to the fire station on Central Avenue, or just down the block.
Okay.
They had one company went out to a fire near the Walmart somewhere out there. The other station was out on Black Road. Does your case have a client as to why their house and all their contents burned down and they didn't have sufficient insurance cover for it?
I'm sorry, they didn't have sufficient insurance coverage for it?
That's correct.
Could they sue?
Their house burned and we didn't go. That's what he said.
The city resources that they're paying taxes for was stretched beyond the people who pay for those resources from tax dollars.
So there's no way that we would respond with another engine company, so we'll say...
Well, they respond, but let's say...
Well, let me finish my thought, Mr. Singh. So Central Avenue Station is out on call, right?
We got 3 companies.
We got 3 companies. So one company is out on call,
Right.
correct? And we have a house on Bass Boulevard that comes on, right?
Right.
So we send a company from Bradley Drive to cover that, is that correct, Chief? We would send...
I'm
All right, I'll give
waiting
you a
on
scenario
his...
again. I'll give you a
Because I
scenario. We
couldn't
got
give you a
three
response.
companies. I'll give you a scenario again. Does your client have a case if all their contents are burned down when their resources were spread so thin that they couldn't get there in time to save any?
I don't know the answer to that question, Mr. Steve.
All right, I'm going to voice something here that probably we're forgetting about in all of this. We already have mutual aid. If Greenbrier calls us, they have more than they can handle, we go, unless we're tied up on something.
Mutual aid works both ways.
Because if we get their resource coming to us. So that's what we presently have. The only thing that we would be doing different in this is that we would respond in those areas close to Springfield, with the donut around, we would take care of structure fires and wrecks, if you will. That's simplifying it, that are close in to us until that other department coming from farther, like Pleasant View or wherever else, could get there. That's what we're talking about. We would be the first, we would be dispatched along with that other company. We would just get there first. We can turn down a call if we're stretched.
Sir, if on your packet, you will see the term overlapping calls for service. That applies. If I've got all three engine companies in our city, which is not unusual for us to responding to calls for service, and I get a call for service in one of these jurisdictions, I am not able to go. And I'll be notifying the fire officer of the engine, will be notifying the dispatch center that we cannot go. And to come back on your response to about not being available, about engine station 2, I'll give you a case history. A motorcycle shop right next to the fire station 2 caught on fire. Engine 2 from station 2 was at our fire headquarters in a training session. We responded and we put the fire out. Just to give you an example, things happen. We can be summoned we have more overlapping calls for service, again, that we cannot go, that I must call. We become like any other fire department. I have to notify off-duty. It works both ways.
See if I'm going to quote you what you said, things happen. You just said that.
Yes, sir.
All three engine companies are in-house. Your first one goes out to Black Road.
Okay.
They get on the scene, they're fighting it. The other two get a call, and then they're out on the call, and all of a sudden things happen and a third one comes. Well, you've got all three of them out there. Does her client have a case that that third one wasn't in Springfield to take care of them, that they were out there in the county?
All I can tell you is if I get in that situation, if the officer of the engine company at that, what you're saying, at that given situation, if I have like two fires at once, one of the one thing that needs to be put to a point here is the majority of the time that I have overlapping calls where two or all three of our engine companies are running calls, it's emergency medical calls. Where if we get on the scene, it's mostly arrive on the scene on a medical call. When the ambulance gets on the scene and I get another call, which has happened, we ask EMS, do you need us? They say, no, you can go. We respond to the other call.
You're referencing from history, just working in the city. Now you're going to encompass 5 more miles. We don't have a history, so you can back that statement up.
Sir, my history is what I given. I can give you an estimate on the calls for service if you go by all fires and emergency extrication. Historically, the mutual aid responses that our city has responded to all of the cities and territories in the county has been in the 12 to 15 number every year. The highest being 36 responses, I believe, in 2007 and 2008. That was for anywhere in the county.
And that will still stay the same.
Yes, there'll be no change on the mutual aid system.
If we ask any of those to come to us. All right, we've gone through this. I'm going to go to our attorney.
I need a little clarification, Chief. Did you not say just a moment ago that we were required to keep 50%, under this agreement, we would still keep 50% of our personnel in the fire station?
ISO requires that in order to, if we do get into an automatic aid agreement, for what I've read, ISO requires that 50% of the available engine companies must be in the city to protect the city.
So, under that scenario, and admittedly, I'm not familiar with that ISO reg, so under that scenario, admittedly, at no time would the city have more than one company out in the extended area? That's correct. That refers you back to the packet that addresses overlapping calls for service. Okay, I thought that I read that. With that being said, if that is our agreement, and we follow by the guidelines of that agreement, and we follow the ISO guidelines and so forth,
then I do not believe that we would have liability.
And you have to look at this also. Remember that anybody that we agree, under, like presently, with the present mutual aid that we have, those people are leaving their service area to come to us when we need them. So this works both ways, and I don't think there's a liability on it from that standpoint, but if you're talking about you're going to be out more, I understand that. I understand the argument. And a greater amount of money would help would help settle that. Now, we've got about 16 more things to vote on now, and we've talked about this for about 35 minutes.
I'd like to defer and talk to the men at the station.
Well,
that's the chief.
You've got the chief, and you know how many calls we're making, Mr. Sneed. You don't have to investigate every issue that comes before. You can listen to somebody that knows some of it sometime. Mr. Head?
I got one question, Chief. I know you're well equipped to fight fires in the city of Springfield. And part of that is the abundance of fire hydrants in the city.
Yes.
And your access to water and sufficient water pressure. Okay. Are you going to be equipped the same in the county to do that?
That gets back, that's an excellent question. Our pumpers carry 750 gallons of water in our booster tank. It again gets back to whoever's jurisdiction is, they have to respond. With tankers, they have tankers. They also have pumpers. All we're doing is like a first call. We're going to attack the fire and give it everything we got until that other agency arrives to take over the situation. Hydrants out in the county are few and far between. That's why rural fire departments have tanker trucks. And they would, whoever's jurisdiction it is, I'm sure they do have tanker support. That's an excellent question.
All right. Now, we've, I think, argued everything about this.
I need a relevant point of order.
What do you need?
At no time should we, as a government body, suggest of undermining the charter and say something to, I'm going to the employees when the manager
We'll take care of that.
Okay? That's very inappropriate.
Ann, did you have something else?
I have one question for Chief Hamill. Have you been out on these roads? And Mr. Gregg brought up a good question.
He did.
A very good question. Have you been out on these roads? And if you hadn't, I'd like to see this tabled.
They have many times.
I agree that I want to help all of our neighbors.
Sure.
But I want to know that we've been out on these roads and that our tankers can turn around and we're not putting our folks in danger.
Sure.
We're under total control of this. We can respond or not respond.
Yes.
The fact is, we're the largest, best equipped, centrally located fire department in the county. There are just things you have to do as a good neighbor. When I first came here, my first week, they shut down the county fire department. And we had this big discussion for a year about, shouldn't we, every other said, shouldn't we, we're being double taxed and all this sort of stuff. Stop. Fire protection is an essential service. You got to do what you got to do. This county's so big and we have such small communities, you got to do what you got to do. People need to be protected. And it's really not good to have somebody lying a mile out of town that we could get to in a matter of a couple of minutes, then wait for 20 minutes and their house burned down or a life be lost because of this. Yeah, are we getting compensated for the real amount? No. But you know what? There's probably not enough money in the entire county to give everybody the kind of service that they probably deserve. But it's just a function of how big a county we have and how small the communities are. So, you know, at worst case, my recommendation would be, let's try it for a year or whenever. If we just feel we can't do it, we can just stop. And if we feel we need more money, then we can bring that up. And if we can come to agreement, great. If we can't, that's fine too.
All right. Without further objection, I'm going to call for the question here. I think we need to go on, and I don't think there's any aspect of that that we haven't thoroughly discussed. And I appreciate everybody's viewpoint. Please call the roll.
Hubbard,
No.
Sneed,
We're voting for sending the fire trucks out into the county.
Providing limited service, yeah. You vote.
That would be no.
Carnell,
No, because the funding is woefully inadequate, and that's my reason.
Charter,
Abstain.
Snyder,
No.
Head,
No.
Gregg.
No.
It fails. 0 to 6, 1 abstain.
6 no and 1 abstention. Okay? All right, we move to 315 to discuss and possibly act on accepting a Homeland Security Assistance to Firefighters grant for an exhaust venting system for Station 1.
Move for approval.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Please call the roll.
Head,
Yes.
Cornell,
Aye.
Charter,
Aye.
Snyder,
Aye.
Gregg, Hubbard,
Aye.
Sneed. Pass 7-0.
All right. 316 has been mentioned earlier, and that is to discuss and possibly act to approve a COPS grant to potentially fund 2 additional police officer positions as of October 1st if we are to be accepted and get the grant. Is there a motion?
So move.
And a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Call for the question.
Charter,
Aye.
Hubbard,
Aye.
Head,
Yes.
Snyder,
Aye.
Sneed, Gregg, Cornell.
Aye.
Pass 7-0.
317 is to discuss and possibly act on a request to purchase a sanitation refuse truck using the National Joint Powers Alliance, which is an approved purchasing authority for municipalities. Mr. Ellis, our Public Works Director, Alan Ellis.
This is the same thing that we did with the police, because no trucks, you can never get 2 trucks that match the same. This is a different organization. It's a larger organization that we've been members of since 2008. I didn't know it. The organization that Jimmy used for the fire truck does not carry refuge trucks. That's the only reason we're into this. I've got a list of the people in the state of Tennessee that are members, 836. Just about everything, and I know Greenbrier, White House, Portland, Gallatin, everybody around us use this, and this would allow us to spec out the truck and get a bid from that and bring it back to y'all to see if it matches. As far as a fee for this, there is no direct fee. However, these companies these alliances work with the manufacturer, not with a dealer. And of course, there's always a fee paid from the manufacturer to the alliance. That doesn't mean we don't pay for it, we pay for it in the reverse. Yes, you won't see it, but there is one. And that's the way it is with all of these alliances. But with the alliances, they think they get a lot better purchasing. So I'm not here to ask us to join this. I'm just asking you to allow us to buy the garbage trucks with this.
You see this in so many magazines that this is done in dozens of states. That
a lot of cities do this throughout on everything.
Mm-hmm. All right, we need a motion.
So move.
And a second.
Second.
Any discussion? Call for question.
Sneed,
No.
Cornell,
Aye.
Hubbard,
Aye.
Gregg, Head,
Yes.
Snyder, Charter.
Aye.
Pass 6-1.
Okay, we move now to 318. Most of the, if not all of the items on this particular page are Mr. Lemaster's involve his work and requests, etc. I'm going to go down through these things, but Roger, be ready to get up if we need any explanation on. You've got a change order here on 318. Just come on to the podium, if you will. So we're going to try to go down through this.
Are you going to lump all these into one vote?
I'm going to try to just have him handy.
Vote for the whole packet.
I think we've got to vote on them individually.
You need a motion.
All right, do we have a motion? Let's get a motion on the first one, which is change order number 2 to in situ forms,
So moved.
contract 2A for a decrease of $464,986.33. Did I get a second? Second. Okay. Now, any questions on it? This is a decrease on this. Call for the question.
Cornell.
Aye.
Snyder. Hubbard.
Aye.
Trotter. Sneed. Gregg. Head.
Yes.
Passes 7-0.
319, same company, change order 1 with contract 3B. The new contract price, the change order is in the amount of $322,854 with an additional 214 days added to the contract time for a new contract price of just about $3.6 million, $3,599,996 and a quarter. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Discussion.
Is there also a deduct on this?
There will be, yes.
There will be.
Yes, sir.
So the net.
When we get to the final end of the contract, there'll be work that was done, anticipated to be done one way, but that was done another. This is to pay for the other way it was done, but the final balance and change order will have a deduct for what was originally anticipated.
All right. Any further discussion? Please call the roll.
Snyder. Cornell. Gregg. Sneed. Trotter. Head.
Yes.
Hubbard.
Aye.
Pass 7-0.
Now, this next one, is that to be taken collectively?
Yes.
Okay. 3.2 has 4 amendments. You see them all. You can read them. They're documented. Is there a motion that they be considered?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion on them now? These involved a change order of $447,137, et cetera, on task order 6, and a transfer of money under amendment 4 regarding task order 3A, amendment 1 to task order 10, transferring $120,000, and an adjusted amendment 3 to task order 3A. So you've got it all in there. Any discussion on it?
I've got a point of clarification.
All right.
That first bullet, amendment 2 to task order 6, that is, they want to zero that amount out, so they're going to transfer, the balance of that is $141,422.32. That is going to be split between 3A and task order 10.
Okay. I'm glad somebody's keeping up with that, Roger. Any discussion on it? Call the roll.
Hubbard.
Aye.
Sneed. Cornell. Trotter. Snyder. Head.
Yes.
Gregg. Pass 7-0.
All right. Now, 3.21, discuss and possibly act on amendment 1 to task order 13 of the Gresham Smith contract. Need a motion and a second.
So moved.
Second. Mr. Steve, did you do that? Second.
No.
Great job. Okay. Discussion? Call the roll, please.
Head.
Yes.
Cornell. Trotter. Snyder. Gregg. Hubbard.
Aye.
Sneed. Pass 7-0.
Okay, 3.22 is Amendment 1 to Task Order 11 with Gresham Smith in the amount of $70,305 for an adjusted amount of $1,340,800. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Discussion? Call the roll, please.
Trotter. Hubbard.
Aye.
Head.
Yes.
Snyder. Sneed. Gregg. Cornell. Pass 7-0.
3.23 is Task Order 3 to Gresham Smith to provide engineering services in the amount of $71,600 for repair to the water treatment plant settling basin walls. Motion, please.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Discussion now. Call the roll, please.
Sneed. Cornell. Aye. Hubbard.
Aye.
Gregg.
Aye.
Head.
Yes.
Snyder. Charter. Pass 7-0.
3.24 is to discuss and possibly act on an amendment to the American Engineers Incorporated for a contract in the amount of $1,885 for additional geotechnical services. Motion?
So moved.
Second.
Mayor,
Yes,
got a
sir.
question for Mr. Lee
I
Masters
need
on
a
this?
second on this
Well,
one.
I thought I heard it.
Did I get it?
I didn't get a second.
Jeff's doing it again. Okay, now, go ahead, Mr. Sneed.
Mr. Lee Masters, I understand these funds are because they need to do some resurveying because the original area for the water tank by the fairgrounds, the sewage storage tank by the fairgrounds, they surveyed and they need to go about 15 more feet. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Are these engineers, wouldn't it be their fault that they surveyed in a known flood zone in the wrong area that would require to come back and do some more core samples? Wouldn't that be their fault, not ours?
Most of the design of the tank was done before civil and environmental consultants. We hired them to look at the floodways and the flood zones of Sulphur Fork Creek. So most of the design was done before CEC got back with us and said that part of this is going to be in the floodway.
Well, did we prematurely pay, or should we go back and get the people we paid to get the preliminary survey that these people worked off of to pay for this? Because that would be their fault. That they survey, they plot where we plan to put a tank in a flood zone?
Roger, it's funny. There's a bust in the FEMA bond, and it didn't work out properly. So if we go to the federal government and ask them to reimburse us, but that's where the fault is.
Okay. Okay, I got it.
All right. Any further questions? Call the roll.
Cornell.
Aye.
Snyder. Aye. Hubbard.
Aye.
Charter.
Aye.
Sneed.
Aye.
Gregg.
Aye.
Head.
Yes.
Pass 7-0.
All right, 3.25, if approved, would amend the contract with American Engineers Incorporated to provide surveying services for easements along the route of the proposed Logan Todd Regional Water Commission 24-inch water transmission main, and the cost of this contract would be $9,450. I need a motion.
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion?
Yes, Mayor, I got one
Yes.
question. Mr. Lee Masters.
Yes.
We changed the route of the water line, correct?
Yes, sir.
That's why we need this.
Yes, sir.
What was wrong with the original route?
The original concept was to avoid bringing the water line from Guthrie through Montgomery County because they originally thought that Montgomery County assesses Logan Todd about $120,000 a year for the facilities they have in Montgomery County. So they thought the original concept would be come across southern Kentucky and come down into Robertson County and bypass Montgomery County. Then they thought, they found out, well, and there was a certain number of easements that I had assumed. Then they said, well, whether it's Robertson County, Montgomery County, it's going to be about the same. So then they moved it back into Montgomery County, and it went from the original anticipated 160 easements to about 180. Now they moved on the south, a lot of on the south side of 41. They were on the north side for the most part until they got down near Adams, and now it's going to be on the south side. So all total, it's about 20 more easements than the original contract with American Engineers specified.
So we're crossing over to the south side of 41.
Yes, sir.
Coming down in front of the old skating rink, sort of.
Well, no. Let's go up to Kentucky. When you come out of Kentucky, the original concept, other than staying in Kentucky and Robertson County, then they said we're going to come down out of Kentucky from Guthrie on the north side of 41 and come down. You get almost to the Red River, and then cross 41 and then cross the Red River. Then they went back and said we want to design it, come out of Kentucky, go on the south side of 41, and then come down the south side all the way to into Adams. So by doing that, it increased from 160 even to about 180.
Well, where are we in the planning stage that we can't put a final route before we send engineers out on the job and say engineers these right-of-ways, and then somehow in the planning, the people who propose that route want to expend more money to re-engineer somewhere else? How does it not get in the right route the first time?
There were a number of things that in the meetings that I've been to, and I've been to a dozen, you've got certain things changed. The decision of exactly how to cross the Red River, They sought permission to do it one way. They finally got it in the most cost-effective way. Then there were some changes as they re-look at things as to what's the better, you had to decide on the location of that water tank and Adams and all that. You put all of it together, there's some things that and they still, are they totally clear on where they're going to cross CSX? Because that has to be done twice.
Yes, sir.
Okay. But the engineering firm they use is out of Guthrie there, and
well, I'm highly suspect when you start changing the routes of lines. I get suspect about who owned the land where it was and who owns the land where it's going and things like that. That's why I had to ask questions.
I don't have any problem with it based on what I hear in those meetings.
The initial design, the very first design I saw showed where they had the water line was strictly a paper design. They look at a map and they said, let's go from here to here to here to here. And that's probably what I used for the initial 160. Then actually I get out there and start doing land surveys and looking at sites and bluffs and rocks and all that sort of stuff. Then you start moving it to where it'll be a better design.
And they're doing very well on it now and hope to be laying pipe in 2017, as I understand.
Yes, sir.
All right. We have a motion and a second. All right. Call the roll, please.
Snyder. Aye. Cornell.
Aye.
Gregg.
Aye.
Sneed.
Aye.
Trotter.
Aye.
Head.
Yes.
Hubbard.
Aye.
Pass 7-0.
All right. 3.26 is to take action if upon approval to accept the additive alternative number 2 as part of the contract with Preferred Sandblasting and Painting for the painting of the 17th Avenue water tank in the amount of $133,500 and repairs in the amount of $10,000. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
Discussion? Call the roll, please.
Hubbard.
Aye.
Sneed.
Aye.
Cornell.
Aye.
Trotter.
Aye.
Snyder. Head.
Yes.
Gregg.
Aye.
Pass 7-0.
3.27 is to discuss and possibly act on a contract with American Engineers for surveying the work on the proposed sewer line on the old Greenbrier Pike, and this contract would be in the amount of $14,610.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? Call the roll, please.
Head.
Yes.
Cornell.
Aye.
Trotter.
Aye.
Snyder. Gregg. Hubbard.
Aye.
Sneed. Pass 7-0.
Now, while you're standing there and have had 10 votes now at this point, Roger, you want to give us a monthly report on the progress of the sewer collection rehab?
They are doing a lot of work in the kind of like in the north areas around West Side School. We've got some work going on over there. We also have some work going on around the Indian Hills area, the middle part and the eastern part of Springfield. It's kind of winding itself down. We're in the final 3 contracts of rehabilitation. The next contracts will be all new construction.
And what percentage of the rehab of our system would you say we're at this point?
50%. From a money standpoint, probably 50%.
Okay.
Because the next biggest item is going to be about $17 or $18 million for the tanks themselves. Those will be the single biggest.
But as far as the lines themselves, though,
85%.
That's what I thought we were way above.
Yes.
70% now. Okay, that's good. All right, thank you very much. 3.29 is discuss and possibly act on the project cost and matching grant reimbursement agreement for the project Ally. Paul, do you want to say anything on that?
Sure. How this grant is going to work is the city of Coopertown has to be the applicant. This is all happening within the Springfield water system. The improvements will belong to the Springfield water system, and because the city of Coopertown really does not have a utility system and is not large enough to pay this contract, we are going to, of course, pay the bills and get reimbursed either from the state out of the grant, and for anything that exceeds that, then the county IDB will reimburse us. So what you've got to this agreement, and the county and the company is referenced in here as well. So it's a 3-party agreement, and City of Springfield Robertson County Economic Development and Tourism Board, and the authorized company representatives will execute this contract.
Okay, do we have a motion?
So moved.
A second?
Second.
Discussion now? Call the roll, please.
Well, my comment?
Well, we were ready to call the roll. Did you have a comment?
Well, I just want everybody to be fair with us, okay?
Oh, okay.
County especially.
We were certainly expecting that.
I'm just stuck.
Let's call the roll, please, Ted.
Okay. Charter?
Aye.
Hubbard?
Aye.
Head?
Yes.
Snyder?
I need to state for the record that I am on the industrial board according to our city attorney, and I vote yes.
Sneed?
Aye.
Gregg?
Aye.
Cornell?
Aye.
Pass 7-0.
All right. Same type thing for 330, is that correct?
331.
For engineering.
Yeah.
Okay. On number 330, this will be a cost reimbursement agreement for the engineering services on that same project.
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
Discussion? Paul?
It's really part of the same agreement. It's the engineering component on this. When we voted, the board approved the contract with GRW for the engineering, but when we voted this in January, it was to start it when the company made the announcement. We need to get started before the company can make the announcement. So we have this agreement. We'll have a subsequent agreement of indemnification to follow this, and so you understand how this is.
Question to you, Mr. Nutty. Is it a definite that the company's going to make the announcement? We're not going to be holding the bag?
You won't be holding the bag. That's why you've got this agreement.
I got to understand that.
Yeah.
So that's already in.
Well, no, nothing's absolutely certain, but it looks very, very, very good at this point.
Rolling the dice.
You won't, let me tell you, so you'll start engineering on here, and you probably won't be invoiced for a month. We're probably going to hear something maybe within 3 weeks.
Is it $128,000 I'm looking at?
To do the whole thing, the line and the elevated tank. But if this breaks off, or they don't make an announcement, then we can, we won't be that much expense.
The engineering firm is agreeing that they will make the city of Springfield whole, that should happen.
I will always be skeptical about doing anything with Robertson County. That's what I'm saying. I just want to make sure. I don't want to get burned. Okay. I'm like Mrs. Sneed. I got people that I serve. Okay.
You've got indemnification to follow.
Okay. All right, we have a motion and a second. Is there further discussion? Please call the roll.
Sneed? Cornell?
Aye.
Hubbard?
Aye.
Gregg?
Aye.
Head?
Yes.
Snyder?
Stating for the record that I'm on the industrial board, and yes.
Trotter?
Aye.
Pass 7-0.
And now follows the indemnity agreement with Freeland and Kaufman regarding these expenses cost expenses that we incur with GRW engineers for the elevated water tank for Project I needed. Again, a motion and a second.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? Hearing none, call the roll, please.
Cornell?
Aye.
Snyder?
I'm on the industrial board, yes.
Hubbard?
Aye.
Trotter?
Aye.
Sneed?
Aye.
Gregg?
Aye.
Head?
Yes.
Pass 7-0.
So I just want to make it clear that as of tomorrow, we've got the okay to start the engineering. That's going to have to be done, so.
Okay. State Form 332 is just a report on debt obligation. It's the capital outlay note series 2016 that we issued this week. And Lisa, what was the amount in that totally, and then the amount of interest, the percentage of interest?
The amount of the note was $1,240,000, and the interest rate was regular the same, was 1.749.
But you'd be pleased with that that rate very, very much. So you've had that report. Now the consent agenda has 2 items. What's your pleasure?
I make a motion to accept both consent items.
Is there a second?
Second.
Please call the roll.
Hubbard?
Aye.
Sneed?
Aye.
Cornell?
Aye.
Trotter?
Aye.
Snyder?
Aye.
Ted?
Yes.
Greg?
Aye.
Pass 7-0.
I want to thank all of you for your deliberations tonight, and as we've worked through a very long agenda, I told Roger LeMasters that we're going to start charging him for the number he brings us. I think he has a record tonight of 10 or 11, I don't know, that we voted on. So Roger said, but he had a pretty good comeback. He said, if you're going to charge me, I need a larger budget. So I thought I'd just drop the matter. Paul?
Well, thank you, Mayor. I think I should pass at this point.
Okay. All right.
Mr.
And,
Mayor?
yes, sir.
Yes, I want to congratulate the Springfield All-Star team. 2 of them, there's 2. They lost, and my Green was part of the softball team.
Thank you, sir. Now, you're reminded that we will meet again on Thursday in this room at noon to vote for the 3rd and final time on the budget. We've already got that call. That one on the 27th is with the downtown merchants, and that's at 6 o'clock in this room. Thank you for the reminder there. We stand adjourned.
Springfield Parks and Rec.